the most ridiculous AP poll admissions to date. Washington and Iowa unranked. Roman Tomashoff of Locked On Huskies is here. We'll get to the Hawkeyes as well. Let's start with Washington. I don't get it, Roman. And you know what? I actually did understand Washington being just outside when they were 5-1. I had them in that spot because of the caliber of schedule they'd played compared to others. But at this point, when they beat a ranked team by 17 points, they got no help.
Should have been a lot more.
Yep, they got no help from the officiating crew. And they were the significantly better team from start to finish. They outplayed a good, not great, but good Illinois team. And Washington, not even in the top 25. They don't even have as many voting points as Tulane, who I have in my top 25, sure, but not as high as Washington, and Navy. The disrespect on the Huskies here, Roman, is wild, and it applies to Iowa as well.
And it's just absolutely exhausting at this point. I hear you when you say 5-1. Yeah, who have you beaten? And sure, like sitting here at 6-2, I wasn't overly enthralled with this Illinois team coming into the year, but you still beat a ranked team. This was the biggest thing that I've heard around Washington for weeks. Because 2 weeks ago, after the Rutgers game, I was like, why is Washington not ranked heading into this matchup against Michigan? Obviously, that didn't go the way that anybody hoped it would, on the Husky side of things at least. But Washington has all of the pieces. They have all the talent in the world. I obviously know that has nothing to do, with rankings at the end of the day, is who's on your team for the most part. But I look at this Husky team and I don't understand it anymore. It just, Spencer, it feels like the old anti-Pac-12 bias at this point in time. Like, what else could it be? Like, legitimately, what else could it be? I've been trying to just breathe and downplay this a little bit, but it's just exhausting. It's just absolutely exhausting. There's no reason that Washington should not be ranked at this point in time. You go and you watch that team play every week, especially when it's executing. Jedd Fisch called his best game of the season this last week against Illinois. It was tremendous. The only possession that Washington didn't score on, outside of sitting on the ball at the end of the game, was a self-inflicted wound, which I know is all too common for that team this year, where Decker DeGraff dropped a wide open pass that should have moved the sticks on 3rd and 2 on just like a little slip route. Like, Washington has just done everything you've wanted it to. In year 2 under Jedd Fisch, you've seen leaps and bounds from every position group. They are very clearly a much better team. They're beating who they're supposed to beat, and they're doing it soundly. They're doing it very, very soundly. There's no reason this team shouldn't be ranked at this point in time.
Yeah, I can't wrap my head around it. I think the justification would come down to the way the losses have looked. They got controlled by Ohio State. Okay.
It was a one-possession game going into the fourth quarter.
That too, which also makes me wonder,
Michigan.
Are people that are voting watching a lot of these games?
No.
Probably not.
No.
Probably not is
not.
The actual answer. Like, could you guys at least, when you cast your votes before you do it, could you at least check out extended highlights on YouTube? Just do us that courtesy. It would influence your votes at least a little bit, just so you can know what it's like. But you went to the, West Coast bias angle of it. USC's not struggling with that. Oregon isn't struggling with that. It feels like Washington just can't get a foothold in the mind of the AP voters. I don't know if they're stuck on last year's team or if they're stuck on a preseason or lack of a preseason top 25 ranking, which again, I agree with, but I'm looking at my top 25 every week, which includes Washington and it includes Iowa this week. And I am looking almost exclusively at what your resume is and what your accomplishments are. And when I make my second worst pick of the year in a game, taking Minnesota to upset Iowa, and then the Hawkeyes blow them out, it's bested only by Illinois getting lambasted by Indiana earlier this year. When that's what you do in that spot, and I go, yeah, I think you could lose to Minnesota at home, rivalry game, and Minnesota's been playing sneaky good, and you just dismantle them.
Sure.
It looked like it was Ohio State playing Minnesota. Yeah. Like, there wasn't that much of a difference in the score, and Iowa just gets no respect at all, and Washington plays a team that these same voters have ranked last week, and it's just, you don't get credit for that. Texas got credit for beating Oklahoma. Fine. I don't have them ranked. I still don't have them ranked.
Nor should you.
No, Texas being ranked and Washington being unranked is the plainest example of SEC bias that you can point out in the AP voters' thinking here.
Oh, absolutely. And, Spencer, I know there's that other show you do that we don't have to talk about right now since you are, as of this moment, neutral arbiter of college football.
Yes, this is very true.
But, for both of those teams, you're in the Big Ten now. This shouldn't be an issue, but here we are. here we are doing this yet again. And you can look into all these advanced numbers that you want. The ESPN FPI has them in the top 25. The strength of record, whatever, it has them in the top 20. Or one of those other strength of whatever, since ESPN has about 7,000 of those, the SEC biased site that it is. But I look at all of these numbers, and you look at whatever else, it doesn't make sense for either of these Big Ten teams, really, for Washington or for Iowa. Truly, like, I know I just said this, but what else can you do? Let me
throw this at you as just another point to support what we're saying. So I didn't have Memphis ranked last week, and I don't have Memphis ranked this week. They are close because Memphis's loss is to UAB, who fired Trent Dilfer earlier this year. Now, Memphis got a big win in the American against South Florida. It has G5 playoff ramifications. I am not denying that. How in the world am I supposed to treat the South Florida win the same as the Illinois win? And I go, well, the other thing you look at with resumes, not just the wins, but the losses. So Washington's lost to top 25 Michigan on the road, got beat. And number 1 Ohio State, competitive, but got beat at home. And Memphis's losses to UAB. So I don't have a win on Memphis's resume that is as good as Illinois by 17 points. And the losses, the quality losses, which comes into everybody's thinking here, also favors Washington.
Right. This is the problem. No, this is the biggest problem. I don't want to hear they played UC Davis, they played Washington State. I straight up don't care anymore. We are in Big Ten conference play now, and Washington, again, has handled quite outside of the Maryland game. They still overcame 20 points. They scored 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to come back from a 20-0 deficit in that game. You've handled the teams that you were supposed to handle, and Washington very clearly still has a big leap ahead of them to compete with the Ohio States of the world, the Indianas of the world, if you will now, the Michigans. And that's understandable. That's fine. Especially, to bring it back to what you were talking about earlier about maybe people are still thinking about last season, thinking about preseason, whatever it might be. This is just so clearly not last year's Washington team, where I know early on in the year they were ranked for like a week or two, and then the Apple Cup debacle happens, and it just felt like everyone wanted to not touch UW from that point on. This is just so clearly not that team. And I have to bring it back to the Stars for a minute or two here, because that should give you some kind of power and some kind of edge. When you look in the Big Ten, there is no reason that Damon Williams should be outside of anyone's top 3 quarterbacks in the conference at this point in time with the way that kid is playing. There's absolutely no reason for that. And if there's any kind of tiebreaker, it should be this versus that, Damon Williams should give Washington the edge in any situation like that.
Iowa also deserves their credit here.
They do. They absolutely do.
Tight win over Penn State, 37-0 at Wisconsin. Their losses are by a combined 8 points to number 2 Indiana and then 16th ranked Iowa State by 3 points in a rivalry game. Those are their losses. They can't crack the top 25. And Bama, who again, I have inside my top 5 because of the caliber of their wins, just gets a mulligan with Florida State, who's a winless ACC team. A winless. I just want to hear the logic of an AP voter that goes through the top 25 and says, I'm not putting Iowa in there. And I want them to come at some point and say, well, they lost to unranked Iowa State. A top 5 team lost to unranked 0-3 or 4, whatever it is in ACC play, Florida State. This stuff is annoying. And look, let's wrap on this, because I'm sure plenty of people have the mindset, don't worry about the rankings, look forward, just focus on everything will take care of itself. I hear that. I'm just telling you that this is a perception sport. There are at-large bids. Washington will not be playing for a Big Ten championship. The perception of the team matters, and that they might have to win at least their next 2, maybe their next 3, just to be ranked going into the game against Oregon at the end of the year is really absurd.
And this is what we're going to hear. It's, their next 3 games are Wisconsin, Purdue, UCLA. So we're going to hear the same thing. It's, oh, you're beating teams at the bottom of the Big Ten. Who cares? You can only play who's in front of you. But to bring it full circle, I'm sure you saw the hilarious post that's been circulated on Twitter as we record this today on Sunday of, oh, look at this gutsy Alabama win over preseason number 13 South
gosh,
Carolina.
I can't with the SEC homer counts, man.
I was this close to saying, well, Illinois was number 9 in week 3. So does that, should that apply on both sides here? No, that's an SEC thing alone. And I'm tired of it.
The SEC fanboys, that's one of those anonymous SEC fanboy accounts it's obnoxious. It's obnoxious. I don't even want to give them the airtime because they're just so patently absurd. Roman Tomashoff of Locked On Huskies is, however, not absurd. That's why we bring him on the show.
Yeah.
Oklahoma. I saw their flaws earlier this year and what does Oklahoma do now?